Welcome back, my name's Steve and thank you for joining me on my photography journey. Over the last few weeks we've been talking through some of the basics of photography and some of the kit that I use. These are all linked up here, and also don't forget to check out the My Photography Journey playlist too. Links to these are in the description, and don't forget to listen to the other episodes of this podcast to catch up on all of those bits and pieces. Today, I thought it would be good to head out together into my local woods to see what we can find to photograph and then kind of discuss the results. This will be a look at how I go about taking, editing, and then publishing my pictures. So it's kind of my whole workflow. The first thing that I need to do is choose what lens or more than one lens to take with me. I don't want to be carrying too much, and I'll be going out with Ruby as well. So I want to kind of keep things as simple and as light as possible. So I think I'll just take my 35mm lens. It's meant to be a bit dark and a bit wet today. So I want to get as much light as possible. This lens has got the biggest aperture, so that will let as much light as possible in. So what else do I need? So I've got a bit of a checklist on my phone for what to take and that kind of thing. So number one, is my battery charged? Number two, do I have space on my SD card? Number three, will I need my tripod? And if I do, will I have a need to take my L bracket with me? What's the weather going to be like? Do I need to take anything particular? Have I got like a cloth to clean the lens with and things like that? And of course, something very important, do I have water and snacks for me to take? As I said, I keep this handy so that I can tick these things off whenever I go out to make sure that I've got everything I need. There's nothing worse than getting out into the woods and realizing that my battery's flat or something like that. On that note, I think I mentioned with my batteries, I put a sticker on each one so that when I quickly glance into their case, I can see which one's fully charged. So if it is charged, it will be in there with the sticker facing up, or if the sticker's facing down, I'll know that it's been used, it's flat, and it's need of a recharge. So just a quick tip to make life slightly easier and not have to have a flat battery when you get out there. Like I said, it looks like it's going to be a wet one today. Good in terms of photography because I'll get some atmosphere in the woods, the leaves will be wet and all the colours will look nice. But I also need to think about what I'm going to wear so that I don't get too wet and cold and things like that. But these are my local woods. I've been there countless times before, so I'm sure there'll be no real problem with that. So let's get wrapped up. And I've got my gear, so let's head out. Right, so now I'm back in my office. The first thing that I want to do is take my SD card from my camera and put it into my laptop. I'll open Lightroom and import all of these pictures that I've taken today. So I've said before that I use 2 SD cards in my Z5. Both of these are collecting every picture that I'm taking, so there's redundancy built in there. It will save the image to both SD cards. Then transfer the images into Lightroom, where they're backed up into the cloud on there as well. And also I've got an external hard disk, which again is another backup, which again is backed up to the cloud as well. So I can then delete the images from the SD card without any worry. I know I've got a copy on the camera, a copy, multiple copies on my computer. So that means there's plenty of redundancy just in case anything does happen to that main copy. I've got 76 pictures from this morning. Now I'll go through the 76 pictures I've taken and quickly delete the ones that I don't like. Ones that aren't in focus, ones that I just don't like. So I do this by just pressing the X key, and then that flags it as a reject, and then I can delete all of those together at one time. So after that initial go through, I'm left with 60 images that I'll go through and look at in a bit more detail. I know some of these I'll delete because there's some that are very similar, and it's just a bit of where the focus is, where the what the light looks like and things like that. So I know there'll definitely be some more that are deleted from there. One way that I do this is that I've created some presets in Lightroom that I use on my own images. One's kind of a darker one, one's a bit lighter. And I generally go through all of these images, so these 60 in this case, and apply these presets. And then that gives me a good idea of where it's going to come out in the end, what it's going to look like. And this allows me to look at some of the details that are in the background, that are around the darker areas or the lighter areas that might not be immediately obvious. So once I've had a look at that, I'll go through these, see if there are other areas of the images that could be improved, and look at any cropping and that kind of thing as well. And as I'm going through doing this, I tend to give them a star rating. So, I mean, nothing gets 1 or 2, they just get deleted. But kind of 5s are my absolute favourites. Most get a 3 or a 4, showing me that they've got potential, that they can show something really quite useful. And then once I've kind of given those initial thoughts to the pictures, I'll come back later, probably tomorrow, have another look through, and then if there's ones that stand out as kind of a favorite image, I'll go through and edit them and go into more detail about colors, about masking and things like that. And then I will generally pick my favorite ones for publishing on Instagram and Vero. You can follow me on Vero as @StephenMartin or on Instagram as @SMP_365x2022. I've been trying to take, edit and post at least one picture every day this year. I've got a bit slack at it recently. I'm still taking plenty of pictures, I just haven't uploaded them. But I'm going to catch up on that, and once I have, I'll tell you all about it. We'll have another one of my videos in the future. We'll be going through what I've taken pictures of, how my technique, how my pictures have evolved over that year, and then hopefully that will give us some motivation to carry on with it for the rest of this year, and then start again in January for 2023 as well. So here we are back in Lightroom. I've already been going through some of these pictures, and you can see some of them have been edited already. So these are the 60 that I have chosen to be my good ones, and then like these 3 here, let's look at them as a comparison. So either clicking on this at the bottom or pressing the N key will bring them up together. And then this way it's a lot easier to compare them. So we can make the actual images slightly bigger on the screen by closing that. And then we're left with these 3. So this was taken at about the same time. The main thing that differentiates these is the fact that it's Ruby in slightly different positions. And actually looking at just the position of her, I prefer this one down here because she's more central. Whereas she was running off in the other 2, or running towards me even, I think. Let's have a look. Yes, running towards me. So This is the one that I prefer out of those two. So let's just go back to here, and then what we can do is flag these two as rejected, and then come back into here, and this is one that we will actually come to edit. So pressing D on the keyboard will take you to the develop module, and this is where we do all of our editing. So as I said, at the side I've got some presets already. So Ruby Woodland is my slightly lighter one, Ruby SMP or Stephen Martin Photography Woodland is my slightly darker one, and actually I think kind of start from here. And then what we can do is, let's just go back to the main grid, and we just want to select the one, whereas I'd still had the 3 selected. It was applying those edits to all of them, which I didn't want to do. And actually this has made it a bit bright, so let's bring down the exposure slightly. So I just kind of get things just about right with this at the moment. I'm not looking to completely edit this picture and make it perfect. It's actually a bit of a warmer day, so let's warm it up just slightly. Still a bit bright, I think. A lot of this area kind of around the top is still a bit bright for my liking, but we'll come back to that in the future and look at that. I'm just going through a quick look through things at the moment. So again, this one, let's just go into the develop module. Just little things like, even if you just go to auto, it will do a good job on it. It won't be perfect, but it's a good starting point from which to then make your own edits. This blue color is, I've got peaking dark blacks and whites on here, so the shadows and the highlights. What we can do is that shows the more saturated blacks. So if we bring it up slightly, then it's not a true complete black, and if there was any whites, they would be showing up red. So again, with the curves we can adjust that, and actually that looks a bit better already. What I did want to do in this one is just come down here to the transform to make it level. So it doesn't look quite level to me. The horizon doesn't look completely flat. So if we go into auto, and then it's just twisted it just slightly, and actually that does look a little bit better. One thing that you can do is, just going in here, you can use this as an idea of whether things are level, and that does look kind of about right there. Let's bring that back up. It's another tool that you can use for that kind of thing. The picture itself, it's okay. There's nothing too exciting about it. I like the pathway leading off into the distance there, and these details on the ground, but because this was f9, so quite a lot of it is in focus, but slightly blurred down here. I think it's not the clearest picture, but it's not too bad. Certainly not one of my favorites. Lots of these all look very similar, so 60 pictures from one day in the woods is quite a lot. Some of this I was looking at more of the close-ups and getting that nice blurred background, because I knew I had my 35mm f1.8, which here I've got it at f2.5, so you get that lovely blurred background, but still get quite a lot in focus in the front. And not the greatest picture, but I'm just playing with my camera, getting these details, seeing the water on the leaves, but with that really nice blown out background. So again, just auto here, and again, just the blue bits are your blacks that are a bit too black. So let's just brighten it up a bit, and we can add a little bit of contrast in there by bringing some of these back down, and it just changes completely your image. So the amount that you can change by changing the whites, one way or the other. So again, the red is your peaking highlights. That's where it's oversaturated and whiter than white. But you can really play around with the different colors. Let's go. G on the keyboard gets you back into this main grid view, and just scroll through some of these other pictures. I did like these ones of Ruby. E gives you your kind of loop view. This is your just looking at the picture kind of view. Again, this is f1.8, so you can see there's very little of her that's actually in focus. It is just her face. Even the end of her nose isn't in focus because I was focusing on her eyes. So I kind of like that look coming out of the blurred background, but ideally I think if this was a portrait of her, I'd want a bit more in focus, so I would have to increase that f number, so make that aperture a bit smaller in order to get that slightly bigger depth of field, so that more of her was in focus, and therefore it was a kind of more of a portrait of her rather than a blurred area. Keep scrolling through here. Again, I do soft spot for Ruby, of course. I like the contrast of the dark colors of her with the oranges and the browns in the background, and on the floor just it's so autumnal. A few green leaves in the background, but again nice and blurry because of the lens that I was using, and the aperture, so it doesn't detract from her and the color in the background. So these are the 60 pictures that I've taken. Again, 55 to 59 are all very similar, and they were just me focusing on slightly different positions within that picture. So I'm going to edit those up now and see what they look like afterwards. So I hope you enjoyed that little outing with me into the woods to take some pictures. I had thought about using my 24 to 200 to go for this trip, but actually because of the conditions on the day, I thought the 35mm was probably the better option. So I'm actually going to have another trip out at some point. Well, I do most weekends, to be honest, but one that I will film and that I will kind of feed back on the new lens. And now that I've got that 35mm video as a comparison, then that means it's something that I can talk about in a bit more detail, the pros and cons of the two different lenses, and try and work out which one's best. I think the 24 to 200 will be, mainly because of that flexibility of that focal length range, although the quality of the 35mm is very good. So I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and leave a comment. Talk to me about what you've seen, any questions that you might have and things like that, and we can discuss that. Thank you for joining me on my photography journey this week. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.